All right, here we go. We're about to tie a miniature parachute mayfly. The first thing that we want to do, I'm going to split the tails on this guy. I'm not going to put a shuck on it. So I want to leave the extension of this thread sticking out the back. I go to right above where the barb of the hook is, and then I come forward one turn, and I'll even do two. And the reason for that, you will see in just a moment, involves the splitting of the tails. So I take two microfibbets. Now ordinarily you would take these microfibbets and you would tie them to the appropriate length. I found that sometimes it makes it difficult to split them, so I tie them in a little extra long, trying to get it directly on top of the hook shank, and I take two turns and then I split right between them. You saw how quick and easy that was, I think in large part because those hackles, or those fivettes I should say, are long. You can also use spade hackles to do this as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pointer finger up against the vise, the jaws, and I'm going to pull forward with my index and finger and thumb until the tails are the proper length. Now, with this particular fly, I used to tie this for Al Cucci of the Delaware River Club, and the guy that wrote Hatches. I used to tie for his particular club, and he really impressed upon me the importance with hatches like Pseudocloion, the name of that's changed, I don't even know the new name, and other tiny mayfly hatches, and also trico hatches, to just use a thread body, to not use a do not use dubbing for the body of these things. Now I'm going to put up a little bit of EP fibers for a post here, and this will make a little bit of a bump in the thorax area, and Al was cool with that because he actually used a little tiny bit of thread in the thorax area to differentiate between it. Okay, each time I go around the base here, I hook it with my middle finger and my ring finger, and I pull it around, and there we go. Alright, I'm just gonna go up and down the post again one more time. I like to do that to really lock it in there well, or lock it in good. And I'll just talk a little bit about this fly. I use it a lot on both branches of the Delaware. I use it on the Farmington River in Connecticut. I fish the Farmington mostly during the summer where there's really tiny bugs on that river. And I've done very, very well with these little miniature mayflies. So I'd recommend it for those kind of waters. I also have used it with success on a spring creek that I fish at home, the Carmen's River. That's a very good river too. I have a little bit too much super glue coming out there, so I had to back off a little bit. It's working its way up the post here, which I really didn't want it to do, but we'll work around that. Not a big deal. Alright, now, one of these amazing whiting saddle hackles. They're just, it's an incredible, incredible fly tying thing. Here's the post. This is flat out advertising, but it's really for your good too. These are whiting dry fly saddle hackles. This particular one is for midge sizes, and this is the length of the hackle. There's no way it's going to fit in your picture, but I would say a fair estimate of how long this is about 14 or 15 inches long. You can see how tiny the hackles are on here. I tied with one feather. I just finished tying 16 flies, size 20. Alright, you know I like to bend it in right along the shank. See how I caught that there? And then I'm going to hold this in a vertical position to start wrapping it around the post. When the feather is as long as this one is, one downside, if there is a downside, is that you do have to move it out of the way each time you go around. Alright, now I just want you to notice also that right up here there's a little gap between the end of the feather and the end of the thread on the post, and that's for the area that I'm going to whip finish. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to apply the smallest amount of dubbing I can possibly apply for a thorax here. Now this is supposed to imitate some of the lighter colored pseudochlorians. So I have a very pale olive dubbing. I don't want the white guard hair there, but this is it. Oh, it didn't even stick good enough or well enough. There we go. Just a tiny little bit of dubbing like that, tight around the thread, and then I'll come forward twice to the bump. I'll come behind it, and then around the post itself. That's it. You don't need any more dubbing than that. Just enough to say, hey, there's a thorax here. Now I wrap this around once, twice, 3 times. Usually with a parachute I like to go 4 times, but not so in this case, because I will be using this on flatter water. I won't be using it on water with much of a ripple on the top at all. 2, 3, 4. I know exactly where this fly is going to be fished. It's going to be on either one of my favorite stretches of the East Branch, or one of my favorite stretches of the Farmington or the Carmens, and all 3 of those rivers. Water is completely flat when it is where I'm going to fish it. I snip off my dry fly saddle hackle, a couple of fibers down here. You might hear my dog Ziva barking in the background. She doesn't take kindly to anybody coming near her property. And then, when you go to trim the post, if you're going to make a mistake on the long side. I just a hair, right there we go. Miniature parachute mayfly, super fly. Fish it, have some fun with it. All right. If you have a hard time getting these guys on your tippet, C&F sells these threaders that you can stick through the eye of the hook, stick your tippet through, pull the threader through the eye of the hook, and you'll be able to tie your knot a whole lot easier. Okay? Fish this guy, have some fun with it. It's a really effective fly.